warm welcome to everyone. I'm so glad to see you all. And we had booked a meeting room that was quite a lot smaller than this, but we had to change it in last minute. So I'm so glad to see you, and I see that you have some space around you, and that's good. Because this will be an intensive 1.5 hour approximately, and we will talk a lot about circularity, about reuse, about what is going to happen, what is happening, and what needs do we have from politicians, from the companies, and from all the different parts of this environment. So I would first of all like to welcome Kristine Nore. She is the owner of SirkTRE, and she is also project leader of the project SirkTRE. So please.
Thank you. Very nice to see all of you and to give a short speech on what we're doing in SirkTRE. We are, as it says, trying to re-establish the timber value circle, and that is underlined with a log house. We used to do this. Of course, that's not the future, but what the future will look like, that's what we are investigating. So first, I don't know if you've seen this installation outside of the Oslo Library, but please go and visit. And I also propose to change for the name of the conference that most of us attend at the moment. It's called World Conference on Timber Engineering, but why not change? And actually, the C that you see in the picture is made of barn lumber. So it's reuse of this C. And you will see when you join, when you go there. Right, so let's see if this works.
Vi har I lang tid visst hvordan vi kan ta I bruk ressursene fra skogen. Om det for å gi ly og husrom, eller varme og energi. Og når vi har bygget for at det skal vare, varer det lenge. Trevirke levende. Kanskje det derfor det noen ting vi ikke helt har forstått hvordan vi skal få til? For ideen veldig god, og mulighetene mange.
Vårt mål å føre returtre tilbake til bruk I bygg. Vi sorterer rest- og rivningsvirke, kvalitetssikrer trevirke, og tar det tilbake til ny bruk som konstruksjonstre. Ved å benytte skogressursene våre smartere, vil fotavtrykkene våre bli mindre, og livene våre bli bedre.
Lykkes vi I SirkTRE med dette, bidrar vi med 8% av Norges mål I forhold til Parisavtalen.
Right, so that was the short intro on our project. I'll give you some more. We're very proud of this project, and about 25 of us sitting here is our partners of the project. And we are all linked to these 24 different work packages. And they are a bit confusing, so I tried to simplify them a bit, like this. So mainly we have one part which talks about how to turn the solid wood. Now when we take it down, it's for demolition. That cannot be done. We have to keep the resource quality the same and take it carefully down so that we can reuse this solid wood. If that's not possible, then we take down and make wood chips for wood-based plates. We demonstrate, and we will have a short presentation on that afterwards. And also we try to look into what technology we need in order to make this happen. We also have a research sister project, which is combined to what we do as partners, business partners. These are the research questions. I will not go through all of them, but it shows that we are both on a nano scale trying to make reuse of timber work, and on a more high level trying to see what this will mean for the full community in technology, and also how to change by changing the culture and attitude in order to make circular wood happen. Where are we now in SirkTRE? We are halfway. We have a 4-year period. Our sister research project has 5 years, but we have 2 years left. We are 28 partners, 24 work packages we started, 200 million Norwegian crowns. So it's a very large project. It's actually the largest research project ongoing in Norway at the moment. And we do have within our partners the abilities, the resources to do this. However, what we lack is, in short, technology to get the efficiency and the digitalization and everything, and the culture. And the culture that is defined also by standards and by us being the World Timber Engineering environment, securing this for the users. So now 50% of all virgin resources are used in buildings. And when we talk about timber buildings in Norway, we build quite a lot in timber, even though also in the urban areas, not the main share, of course. It could be a lot more, but we build now about 3 million cubic meters every year. And this is the same as the amount that we tear down and demolish and burn eventually. We need to use at least half of this resource that we demolish today and try to put it back into buildings. That's our goal in SirkTRE, and as was put on the film, if we reach this goal, we actually also will be part of 8% of the reduction in the Paris Agreement. So it's big carbon numbers that we can save. What do we do exactly? We make things out of surplus from the industry and building sites. We get it at wood waste sites, and also we map standing buildings, mainly agricultural buildings. In Norway we have 1 million of them, and in average they are 100 years old. And they will not stay another 100 years old. So we have to do something with them, and the best thing is at least to use this resource. And we've started. So we have some examples. Last year these 2 projects were built. It's a barn built from 75% reclaimed wood, and it's a sauna based on barn timber. And these are not so far from Oslo, the barn, and this sauna is in Sandvika, so it's possible to visit actually. I also have some slides from some of our PhD students. This is Christina looking at the material flow. What amounts of material are we actually looking at? And how does it fit with today's market? Quick, but you can go and look closer at SirkWood's website. And Shumaila is another PhD student, and she's here, available. She's looking into politics, requirements, and standards. What do we need? What is the loopholes? And she has made this very nice figure where she sorts out what is already going and working, what is on its way, optional by now, suggestions, but probably will be regulations in a short time, and what we need in order to make a fully circular value chain. These are proposals. We have invited some politicians which have ambitions, so we will discuss afterwards how to get there. Very short version are a few hurdles which we would like to point at this moment. We want a role in standardization and in how to do the building regulations in the future. And timber being a light material, we don't count because it's too light. You know all the lightweight structures. But actually when we talk about wood waste, it's half of the volume of the waste in Norway, so it's a big problem. However, it's only 1/6 of the 6th biggest in weight. So it doesn't count, because all waste are counted and also circularity is counted in tons. So really stupid, should be easy to fix, not that easy. Second, we have to deconstruct and not demolish. We've actually proposed to take demolish out of the word book. It's linked to so many different things, how to demolish. Some talk about sparse demolishing and such, but why not just deconstruct? And at last, again, to all of us here, experts on timber engineering, many, it's our responsibility to make sure that it will be safe to use reused wood in constructions in the future. So, this is my hand over to the next speaker. Christer.
Thank you. The next speaker is Elin Hansen from the environmental organization Zero. She is responsible for the circular economy in Zero, and she worked with climate solutions, especially in the building and construction sector. You have earlier been environmental advisor for Statsbygg in Norway, and you have worked with different projects like the new government buildings in the city here, and also National Museum and other projects. You will tell us a bit about the potential and needs for circular economy. Give a big applause.
Thank you, everybody, and thank you for having me. What an amazing crowd. I feel like a rock star. That's not every day. But circular economy requires rock stars, and you're all it. Anyways, my bit for today is to tell you a little bit about how far you can go. And that's interesting, not far. Let's use this one. For Norway, we can pretty much go the farthest because we've gotten the shortest. Among the countries that have a circularity gap report, we're the bottom country of all, way below the world average, and annoyingly even behind our dear neighbor Sweden. So yeah, there's a lot to be done and we haven't really gotten started, even though the concept is easy enough. Start using things over again and extending the life cycles of things instead of just making and using and wasting, and that's the end of that. I think you all understand that bit, but in case there's a need for clarification, I mean, the waste pyramid or the hierarchy is easy enough. As a minimum, something needs to be able to be recycled. Something physical, a natural resource needs to be able to be recycled. If you have to incinerate it to use it, then that's not circular. If you have to put it on a landfill, that's not circular. So recycle is the bottom tier, and above that there's reuse, and above that is not having to have resources at all. So there's a lot of shades of gray in between, but that's the gist of it. Extend the life cycle of things. Try to not have to have things if you can, and keep things alive for as long as you can, or give it to someone who can. In Norway, the stuff that we make counts on our national greenhouse gas emission inventory. And the stuff we make in our manufacturing industries and mining is quite substantial. We're one of the countries that make the most stuff for Europe, such as, and we'll get into the details of things, but if you want to get into the details yourself, these are all public data and you can go get them yourself. There's 200 facilities behind the statistics, and there's 14 million tons of CO2 to start cracking. But the details of it is, if you want to figure out, can this stuff be extended or prevented from being wasted after one cycle of use, then I've tried. These are my personal attempts of grouping materials together and grouping facilities together in something that makes sense in my mind. And if it's gone after a single use, such as fuels or petroleum products, then that's not circular. So just square that away. Whereas if it's aluminum for cars or electronics or other kinds of iron and steel and mineral products or cement for concrete and stuff, then that can obviously be recycled or reused or prevented or designed such that it can be made circular. And because we're talking about timber and wood products today, the paper stuff here shows as a very, very tiny orange bit down there, just to show you that the bit of fossil carbon tied to the timber industry obviously is very small. But this is the picture. This is for Norway what we need to start working on to become circular, and this is the stuff that goes out of the country. So we don't really know whether we should attack our own national inventory or whether we should attack other countries' inventory, because let's face it, among our problems is one, we're not very circular, and two, we love consuming things. So we import almost as much as we produce ourselves for our own consumption. And so my simple message is, for Norway to become circular, it doesn't matter where it comes from, but you need to have a focus on the national inventory as well as you go along. That's for the government to facilitate. This is what our responsibility is, but as for consumers, if you try to figure out where the stuff you consume is made so that you have a conscious knowledge of whose country's national inventory am I really reducing right now, that's going to be difficult. I challenge you to find an environmental declaration and try to figure out where is the stuff and my stuff made. Anyways, these are the national inventories, and this is the approach to trying to figure out what kind of stuff that you can help your own country reduce by going circular. And since we do consume a lot, and since we haven't really become very circular yet, I'm gonna present to you 5 suggestions of needs to facilitate getting started. And my first one is put greenhouse gas limits in the national building codes. The abbreviation there is for the Norwegian Building Code, where as of today, all you need to do is have a carbon inventory for 2 types of buildings, and that's it. No caps, no limit values, no nothing. Denmark has them. Why can't we? So that's my suggestion. Number 1, start actually putting demands on building projects so that we level the playing field for all the projects out there, and we start competing for lower carbon footprints. Number 2, with all the stuff that we have and consume out there, wouldn't it be nice if everyone in the value chain had some responsibility in making these things circular? Well, I think so. We're used to it in Norway when it comes to a lot of things such as packaging, glass and metals, or plastic bottles as such. But when it comes to construction materials, that's a whole different story. We could be the playground for introducing how these things can work, and we can work together in our industries to test these things out before stuff gets real and it becomes legislation. And we wouldn't have to wait for the EU to do it for us. This kind of testing and this kind of regulation when it comes to building codes wouldn't, of course, be easy. It wouldn't come for free. So my suggestion to get it started and to scale up would be to create programs for funding these things to alleviate the risk for the front runners, and to have tax and fee incentives built in so that there's a reason to want to do this in the first place. The motivation needs to come from within, not from without, and that would help if you could have reduced taxes or other kinds of fee mechanisms to drive this transition. The last 2 suggestions would be, we need a public-private public-private collaboration in creating a national reuse marketplace. We have a gazillion digital platforms out there. They're all proprietary, meaning they haven't standardized yet. As Christina said, we need standards, not just for safety, but also for digital information flow, so that it's possible to scale up and to speed up the transition for reuse of construction materials. And lastly, I would like to see a similar private-public collaboration for building a circular solution library. Imagine if we had regulation that worked the same way as the Industrial Emissions Directive, where you define for waste treatment that if you want to wash your sand and stone materials, then this is how you do it. Follow this list. This is the best practice, the best available technology. Imagine if we had something like that in the building code or in some sort of regulation that said, here's the best practice for reuse of timber. Do this, that, and the other. And then that's part of public procurement, and it's an easy way for everyone to know what the playing field looks like. That would be great. I would love to see that. And so, those are my suggestions. I have more, but I'm going to leave it at that because you're not going to be able to retain all of those suggestions by the end of today anyways. But put simply, we have a long way to go, time is short, and our house is on fire, so let's go. Thank you.
Ellen, it was very good. I know we have some gifts.
Yeah, that's true. We just when you talk about it.
When we talk about it. It's the way it happened in Unte. I'm sorry that, but we have the things in order, but we just have to remember it.
Great.
You're welcome.
Thank you so much.
Okay, next out is a very known person in this environment. He's standing beside of me. It's Professor Roberto Tomasi. He is an expert in timber structures at the University of Life Science. His current research activity is a lot in different timber joints, glued-in rods, analysis of interaction between timber floors, and seismic behavior in multi-story timber buildings, among a lot of other things. So this is a really expert in timber engineering. Thank you. Roberto, he will tell us more about the structural potential of reuse of timber. Okay. So a warm welcome to you as well.
Okay, thank you very much. Yes, my presentation is related to the work we have been doing in this project at NMBU, in particular in connections, designed for reuse. I would say that this is a kind of slightly different approach, in a sense that we will also want to think about how to design today structure that can be reused in the future. So that means structure that can be easily not demolished or demounted, as we said, and for example, and have a more sustainable material in the structures. So we started from the connections, which is typically the dowel type connection with steel in slot plates, which are very established concept with high mechanical performance, which is proved by calculations. But we need steel, we need accuracy in the productions. Fabrication tolerance can be accepted to a certain point, and fire design can be critical. That means the input we receive from the producer is also to, and from the designer, is also to reduce the use of steel in wood constructions, and with the goal of a pure timber building as much as possible. So the activity is related to this experimental test on new type of connections, which this goal, and of course with a with the final goal to standardize the design approach for this type of connections. And so we have to consider also the sustainability of the material, and we have considered not only Norway spruce, but also which of course is Norway spruce, so is from Scandinavia, but we consider also hardwood, like European beech, but especially birch, which is also very relevant in this region. The preliminary concept was to substitute the steel plates with wood products. And in particular, we consider birch finished plywood, and coupled with full-threaded SirkTRE screws with a nominal diameter of 7 mm. The pros of this approach is that we can use in-house material, not very sensitive to fabrication tolerance, because we can drill all together the systems, and we can have also 2 extra plates outside the connections, because the fire resistance is much higher than the steel plates counterpart. The cons is that we don't have so far a predictable calculation model, and the strength is, of course, it could be weaker, because if we consider the approach we use in the standard, like the Johansen approach, we also always not consider failure associated to the steel plates. In this case, we have to think about this. But the idea is that we can build up the wanted cross-section by an arm of packages, so we can start from one package and assembly at the end with a final size, and then drill all together the holes and insert the screws for entire width. The result, here are some result. Of course, we have seen the typical failure of steel connectors, which is the formation of a plastic hinge in the steel shank. But also we have experienced also the failure at the level of the plywood panel. We use the panel with different orientation, also 45 degrees, and also we have a failure in tension and also in compressions, and with different value of the final capacity. But here, just to give you an idea how much promising can be this approach compared to traditional connection, we have, for example, compared the calculation for a 12 mm dowel, so with the same size of the members, but with this solution we could use 2 extra plates outside the connections, and drill all together these elements, and of course the single element per se has a less capacity, but the efficiency is much higher if you consider also the geometrical boundaries you have in the connection, so the limitation in the edge distance and in the interspace between the dowels. The next step, which is we want to achieve, is to go further with this goal to substitute steel with the wood, and we want to have also dowel wood, and this is a concept that also is implemented in the new standard, because we want to have the possibility to design also this type of connectors. This is some test I did like 20 years ago when I was in Italy, to compare the capacity of a 12 or 10 millimeters the steel dowel compared to a beech dowel, and these are the photo, and you can see the typical failure mode is not actually the same you would expect from a steel connectors. But in the meantime, a lot of research has been done in this regard, and now in this campaign we want to use a birch dowel, so using more local material, and also we try also to use densified wood for this new test. This is something not yet finished, so it's under work. That's just anticipation of this new test campaign we are doing with this completely pure connections, where pure wood connections, where we couple birch plywood and birch dowel, or densified wood dowel. Here are comparison. Of course, this is the first preliminary results. Of course, when we have a birch dowel, we have a less capacity compared to the steel connectors. But for example, we can have a higher capacity when we use densified wood dowels. Yeah, but these are to be continued. I will prepare in the future some more results. But in the conclusions is that I would say that this birch plywood has remarkable strength properties and could be suitable for this kind of applications, which have a proven efficiency that is corresponding to the case of steel plates with steel dowels. And also pure timber connection, we want to propose that as an alternative solution for a completely reusable connections. So the use of dowel, of densified wood, could be an alternative to enhance the mechanical properties compared to traditional hardwood dowels. Okay, thank you.
Thank you a lot, Roberto. A little gift from SirkTRE.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, Per, he is already ready. That's good. Per F. Jørgensen, he is a civil engineer and an entrepreneur. He is CEO in the advisory company Vil Energi. And Per has experience from, among others, entrepreneur. He has been researcher and established different companies. So he is also one of the project leaders in SirkTRE in the demonstration project. I know we got some examples from the pilot project. So please.
Thank you, Christer. You told me to speak faster and louder, so I will try to do that. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. That's great. I will tell you about some of our pilot projects in the SirkTRE. And within 2025, we want at least 7 pilot projects and to build up the market for reused wood. And the objective is almost 50,000 cubic meter of reused wood in this period. And that corresponds to 7,000 tons of CO2 equivalents. Quite ambitious. But the first I will tell you is a circular home. Haugen Soar Architects and Norgeshus, they have an ambition to challenge the prefabricated house industry producing circular homes. And the first private home will be erected next year. And then they will make industry out of this. It could be like this, quite nice. It's the fund from it's designed for reuse and reused materials for foundation, walls, roof, construction, slabs, etc. So it's if you want to build yourself a new house, have a look at this next year. So, Grapa Architecture, they are developing a circular wooden indoor wall for rehabilitation of commercial buildings. A simple assembling and disassembling, no screws, no glue. And they are in the testing phase and prototype phase now. One-to-one prototype at the left and testing some requirements at the right. Fragment Architects, they are building a circular framework for an open building in wood. And it's self-bidding, resident participation, and it's open building. It's a quite well-known building concept, but this should be in reused wood. And they are very eager to write books, so I guess you will have the recipe in my book in 1 or 2 years from now. And it's easier to change the room solutions during a lifespan. In Spitsbergen, Svalbard, Longyearbyen, the permafrost is disappearing because of the climate change. And the foundation are getting worse or better. So they have to, the normal way is to tear down all buildings and build new ones. But LPO architects and Store Norske Boliger have another solution. That is Elvesletta. You can see this one is Elvesletta, the existing buildings, and this is how it may look in some years. Because they have a need for homes at Longyearbyen. And if you make a new foundation and a ground floor, and then they take the existing building, lifting up on the top of this ground floor, and rehabilitate it to this current building code. So it's, and then when they are finished the first one, they move where they lifted the first building, make new foundation, new ground floor, and lift another building on the top. And they are going to complete this whole building project. And people can live there, not in the building they lift, of course, but the other ones. Could look like this. Another project far north, Båtsfjord in Finnmark. Ola Roald Architects, they are building or they are developing a new kindergarten and a primary secondary school. They have 2 donor buildings, 2 old schools, and they will use a circular design using BIM, and they are collaborating with the municipality of Båtsfjord. You can see one of the old schools up there, the new school in the middle, and the kindergarten at the bottom here. And it's like this, part of the existing facade here. They will reuse the wooden cladding, the windows, and the glue lamp structure. Statsbygg, it's the Norwegian government's building commissioner, a property manager and developer, and they will provide the SirkTRE project with 1 wooden circular pilot project started in 2025. And then the last one, SirkTRE. Christina has told you some of this. They will develop construction method using reused wooden structures, map building for dismantling, digitalize the wooden components, and develop new construction systems. And you have already seen this beautiful building, and that is 25% of the facades are reused materials. So, thank you very much for your attention.
And there's an extra little gift for you, because we know that your company was 5 years old recently.
Yes.
Yeah, so
Thank you.
congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Okay, we're going further. We have to end at 18:30 because of the big opening at in the City Hall. So next speaker up is Audun Øvrum. He is the CEO in the Norwegian Wood Technology Institute. He has a broad experience from being researcher, department manager and top management within the work with timber from forestry until R&D. Audun, he will tell us a bit about standardization as a key to reach circular timber engineering.
Yes, nice to meet you all. I'm going to talk about standardization today, and has been given the opportunity to say something about how to reach circular timber engineering. And that's not an easy task. I guess this whole conference is really basis, have been making really standards over very many years. And standards are sort of mandatory, or they're, you can't build a building without standards. And if you look at the timber engineering business today, you have 290 CEM standards for timber products and timber design. You have 140 ISO standards, which means that you have a full range of standards covering all aspects from producing, logging, and also making timber design. If you look at reclaimed timber, you have 0 international standards for that. So that means we really don't have anything, at the moment at least. So I will say something about what we are doing in SirkTRE about this issue. Because we want to make Njøstårnet from reclaimed timber when we're finished. That's sort of the basis here. But we need systems for using reclaimed timber in new constructions. We need some assessments, we need some documents, we need some guidance on how to use them and how to assess them. And we also need design methods for adaptability and reuse of timber building, timber components that we are using today. So it's really 2 big issues that we have to solve to make the circular timber engineering business work. And in SirkTRE, as you've seen earlier, we have a lot of different work packages. But we have one that's called standard, which is sort of a motor to make new standards for reclaimed timber in various aspects. And this work package is owned by the Standards Norway, which is the Norwegian standardization organization. So they, of course, then you can go quite easily make standard within that mirror committee of Standards Norway. And that's what we're trying to do now. So we have started to making these standards, national standards, because we have no international standards to work with so far, and are trying to make suggestions for standards that we want to publish for official hearings now quite soon. And the good thing about SirkTRE is that we also have, or SirkTRE, we also have the SirkTRE project, which is actually doing much of the legwork to find out both the quality and the properties of the reclaimed timber, and also are working on environmental impact of cascading. So these 2 are really combined to hopefully produce standards that can be used not that far in the future. So for the moment, we have started to make 3 standards that are, we hope, to put on public inquiry within this fall. The first one is terminology. The second one is on purity, because purity of reclaimed timber is quite important to define what to include, what to not, and how to assess it. And of course, it's a strength rating. We want to say something about the strength and the technical properties of the timber, but you don't have a standard for that today, so we have to try to make a national one. Of course, that's a very difficult area because there are a lot of rules and laws around this in the CEM system, so we are taking some chances with this now, but we want to have something just to get the value chain started. Later on, we will work on design for disassembly and also calculation of how to measure the footprint of reused timber. So we have been working quite extensively in Norway the last half year at least. We have had grading courses, grading reclaimed timber as you see here, We had one in Hønefoss, and we have had one in Trondheim, and we have a lot of interest for this topic in Norway now. We have several places where they make these marketplaces for reclaimed timber or reclaimed building materials in general. Here you see from Trondheim. Here you see SirkTRE's own place at Follum, and also we have the Circular Research Center here in Oslo. So there is, but of course we have to assess things that we're not used to assess. We have to make rules about cracks, we have to make rules about holes. We have to combine this with what we know from before, from virgin timber, and use the standards we have today and modify them. But we have something to look at from before. In Australia they have actually a grading standard for reused timber, industry standard. We also have American tests from before. So we are using all these documentations to try to make our own. And what we know is that the properties is not really a problem. The issue is the length and the damages that these timber boards have been subjected to. But we are getting there now, and we think that we have something ready within a few months to be published for inquiry. So that's our hope. So then we are thinking about renaming the C classes that we use in Europe to make special O classes that can be used for reclaimed timber that a timber engineer can use in his design. That's our aim, and we think we get there. But of course, we will be conservative in this. We will keep the safety, of course, and we cannot take chances with timber properties because that's going to hurt the timber engineering business altogether. So now it's the question how we're going to build in the future. And as you see here, there's a light frame, timber frame that has been the practice for most Norwegian houses since the Second World War. And when you get this into the demolition plant, the mean length of the timber coming in is 1.45 meters. Of course, that's a problem as a resource. You have to do something about, about that. And in the future, perhaps that's not the best way of building if you want to build a reusable construction. But we have ISO standards actually for this assembly that we are trying to look into now and trying to make design standards for wood construction and timber construction. That's the next step. And as you will see later on, I think tomorrow or the day after, here is a very good example from SirkTRE. This is halve that was mentioned earlier today, that has been using, as was shown here earlier, different kinds of timber components as connections. And I guess that's the future, of course, obviously, for timber structures, I think. So we in SirkTRE are trying to produce standards as much as we can, but of course we need people, we need good ideas, and we need collaboration with all areas of Norwegian expertise, but also from other countries. So if there are people working on the same issues from other countries represented here today, we are heartily welcoming contact with you, because this is a joint effort, I think, for the whole community. Thank you.
Thank you a lot, Audun. Here's also a gift for you. And for those who wonder what it is, you can have it as have your baking, what do you call it? Your plate.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
You're not that used to kids.
No, I'm not in the bakery sector. So I'm not sure what you call it. Okay. I'm sorry. No, I hope you have got some input, and now we will have a conversation about circularity with the Norwegian politicians, both from the Parliament and from Oslo. So please welcome up at the stage Olav Elvestuen, He is a Norwegian politician and a member of the parliament from Venstre. He has also been the Minister of Climate and Environment. So please, give an applause. And next person up, Rasmus Johan Mikael Hansel. Welcome. I never heard the long name before I read it right now. Maybe
You weren't supposed to.
Okay, I'm sorry. You are a biologist and a politician and a member of the Green Party and you were also the first member of the parliament from the party. So warm welcome. And Rina Marian Hansen, you are the City Council for Business and Ownership from Oslo. You are educated from the University of Oslo and have been a member from the City Council from 2003 and now the Council for Business and Ownership. And at least, Christine, please take a seat, you as well. And a little microphones. Okay, I can share it with you as well, I guess. Okay. We heard that 50% of the virgin materials in Norway is going to the building sector. It's a lot. So I wonder, first of all, what do you think about that? What should be done? Maybe we should start with the national level. Ola?
Well, what should be done? First of all, the buildings that we already have, we should not tear them down in the amount that we do. They should be kept, and then we should keep them and then to build on towards them. And when they are taken down, as I said, they should be deconstructed. The goal should be not just to reduce waste. It should be have a zero waste deconstruction, and that is you have projects here that are aiming for that, and that should also be there. And of course, when we build a new, it should be more wood and more environmentally building. And I think we in Norway, I think we have quite a lot of good projects that are in front. But the problem here, as in many other places, is really to get the volumes there. Because there we are lagging behind. Also in building codes, I think we are also lagging behind the rest of Europe onto that. So we have a lot of projects that, like the circle wood, that is really in front. But it's to get the volumes, that's the hard part, but you think about those 40%.
And are you agreeing with him? I guess you quite agree.
Yes, of course I agree. But to start from another totally political position, what is needed here, and as in so many other environmental issues, is political commitment. This needs to be the commitment and the project of the Prime Minister. And it needs to be a direction for all ministries, not just the building sector, not just some ministries working with wood and timber. It needs to be a comprehensive project with committing goals. That is what is needed in order to release the various measurements or measures that are needed to implement all this. And as this conference and this meeting demonstrates, the knowledge is there, the need is there, the technology is there, it's all there. It needs a political framework, it needs political direction, and it needs political commitment. Then it's going to happen.
Thank you. I have to say that all the political parties in Norway was invited, so they could have been here. Lina,
Yeah.
but you are from Arbeiderpartiet,
Yes.
and what do you think about this question?
I'd like to start maybe with where we are in Oslo. Because in Oslo, as some of you might know, we have a coalition with the Labour Party, the Socialist Left, and the Environmental Party. And I think that one of the things that we experience, and that has been our goal, is to see Oslo as a test bed. Because very often we can see that maybe someone is heading in the right direction on a national level, or someone is asking for more legislation, but we don't have enough specific examples. And what we've seen in Oslo, both on carbon capture and storage, on what we're doing on traffic, and also on this specific topic, is that we're, in Norwegian context, we're of course a very large city. In the European or the global context, we're not. And that makes us quite good because we have, in the Norwegian context, we have the knowledge institutions, we have the big businesses, and we have a quite strong municipality. And so we can actually make all this work together and be a test bed for new solutions. And as a city, we've set quite high climate ambitions, with reduction of 95% in 2030, which is very difficult. But having a goal that is quite difficult to reach also makes it possible for us to find new solutions. So the Circular Central, which I think you have been introduced to earlier today, is part of what we are doing. And it's also a very good example of the business, the public in Oslo, and the city developers working together. In order to reach our goals, and I can speak like 3 hours about this, but in order to reach our goals on climate emission reductions, we had to go into all sectors. Meaning, in what we are building as a city, of course, we also had to get the emissions down. And what do you do if you want the emissions down? You need to go from a linear thinking to a circular thinking, and we need to also replace the traditional ways of building. Or it's not really the traditional ways either, because you go back to actually the traditional ways with building with wood, which is the actual Norwegian tradition. And so now currently we're having quite a few projects with a strong component of wood. We're even building a new public bath with Tøyenbadet, with a wooden roof, something that people thought was impossible. But of course, as all of you know, it's not.
Very good. So you are also, you have the ownership of different components in Oslo. How would you use them to speed up the circularity?
Yeah, I like to focus on two things, because I have the responsibility for Oslo Bygg, which is a large public building company, which is as in size or the number of or the size of the area that they are responsible for is on the same level as Statsbygg, which is the national building company for the state. And this, of course, we are not going to talk about who was selling national property and so on, but that's part of that picture. But so we are we're a big player.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you would build in retail wood.
We're building in wood. We have increased, because we had a goal of increasing wood in our construction projects, so we have increased, and we've also increased the reuse of wood in our own buildings. We're opening a big school, Voldsløkka, which is quite close to the center, this autumn, where we have a support structure in solid wood. We're close to that. We're opening a new home for the elderly, Tåsenhjemmet, which someone here also has been working on, with solid wood, load-bearing walls and wood. And that's important. But what we're also doing, and which I think is even as important, is that we're establishing the innovation districts of Oslo. Since 2019, we've had a campus strategy in Oslo, pointing out 3 different innovation districts focusing on different topics. And what we call innovation district Hovindbyen, which is around where the Circular Central is, and also close to the construction city people. The main focus area is circularity, because we can of course talk about wood in itself, but we need to go overall from a linear thinking to circular thinking.
Thank you. Kristine, you are project leader of SirkTRE, and if you should challenge these people, what would be your super challenge?
Super challenge. Well, I think I've said a few, but we actually struggle maybe the most with the culture, and that is price, of course, because that's regarding everything. We would like them to consider to give a funding of reuse to make sure that it actually will happen, and also maybe we can help out with not counting in tons but counting in value, so that timber also gets into consideration.
So a change in system. Ola, you have some on your mind, as I see?
Yeah, the last one I think should be easy. I mean, you should always count more. So if you count in tons, you should also count in value. So that should be an easy part on this. I think that's it. When it comes to, and we should use, of course, in Oslo you have the public buildings that's been in front, and also it's becoming much better also around Oslo. I think there's a lot of them, and you have these programs also with the private properties with the future build that is there. That is also in front, and you also have the Scandinavian Nordic environmental label Svanemerket. That's also building in wood. So the front runners in many ways we have, and we have to do that much more. And using what's it called, public procurements and get that broad on a national level. That's where we I think can really act. What is hard and harder is how to say. We have support systems too. I mean, yeah, I think you are part of the green platform. That is a project that is there. Research is also well funded in Norway, but there too, it's to get the broader picture. And I noticed that it was mentioned: can you use taxes or can you use fees to some degree? I think that's harder to put into place in a way, but that's something that we need to look at. I mean, we are used to using climate fees in Norway. I mean, you had the CO2 fees since the early 90s, but it's really to how do we set that up? That would be a more complicated part, but of course it can be done.
Rasmus, do you have the easy way to goal?
No, not at all, but I can start by disagreeing slightly with what I was doing. I think that it's not acceptable to start by just establishing that it's too hard to use economical incentives. I think we do have to use tax incentives and fees in a much more proactive way than we are doing today. We're more or less not using any kinds of measures like that these days, so that's needed. I accept that it is complicated, but I don't think we can start by saying it's too complicated. Secondly, I think the two other measures that was pointed out by the representative of Zero, greenhouse gas emission limits and environmental limits on building standards. Just to simply set the framework that allows the market to go in the right direction. As long as the market is not forced in the right direction, we will run around in the same circles. I guess we will move slowly in the right direction, but much slower than we could and then we need to. And then the concept of extended producer responsibility at all levels. But first of all, the new buildings, of course, using all the wonderful examples that we have been presented to, and also applying extended producer responsibility on all levels in the building sector. It's that kind of measurements that will set the framework for the whole business to move in the right direction. And it's the old story. Before that framework is in place, then there will be a lot of good work, but you won't have the real progress that is possible based on the knowledge and the needs that we have.
Yeah.
Okay, Ola.
Yes, first of all, I never said it was too complicated. It's from the Greens, I'm from the Liberal Party here. And it's also to decide where to go. Producer responsibility is another way that you can go on this. And the standards that were set into use that have to be developed is also part of this, to getting this framework in. And of course, we also need, we have support frameworks in Norway when it comes to reducing emissions directly. We have Enova, it's called here, but we do not really have the same framework to put money into the circular economy. That's also one thing we need to look into. Should it be put into Enova? I don't, maybe not think, or should you have a separate one that is more framed and put on towards the circular economy? And that's something we need to do, because you need a lot more support into this system.
Yes, and Rina will get to work, but we also have BioNova, and that is pointing towards some of this. Rina, please.
Yes, I'd like to pick up on what you said, Christine, because it's also about culture. And I think that's quite important, because we're used to building in this, not the really traditional way, but the semi-traditional way. And a lot of the building companies in Norway are used to doing it this way. And what we've seen, and as I started to say, when Oslo can be the test bed, as we did with emission-free trucks on the building sites, on the construction sites, you also create a market for the companies to actually get the knowledge and do the investment in whatever they need to actually be prepared. And I think that we actually can play a significant role in what we, as a big city in Norway, procure. And I also think when we have this Hovinbyen Circular Oslo Innovation District, which is it's really a large new city district that is being built in Oslo. It's going to be 30 to 40,000 new apartments, and in Oslo that's a lot. And in addition, around 50,000 new jobs in this area. And we can use regulatory measures on a local level in that area on what we expect all the companies building there to actually contribute it. And we have said circular is the main goal of this area. So they have to, of course it won't be perfect for all of them, but I think it will move the mindset on a lot of the companies.
Yes, and I think actually a lot of the deliverance here are ready.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
Come up with the orders.
Yeah.
I think we also, before we end, we should ask if there are a couple of questions, so we can manage that. Who is first out?
I'm from Denmark, where we have some experience with this. And I think in your discussion about how to limit it, if we're just looking at the global warming potential and set limits for that, that will automatically solve the problem. It doesn't matter where you're recycling or you're limiting the use of resources. But then you don't need to discuss it whether you want taxes or you need to make benefits or something like that, because that requirement, and nobody talking about that in Denmark having economical benefits. We're just lowering the global warming potential level.
Thank you. Thank you. One more question, if there are some. Sorry.
So I'm from Belgium and Dutch, which has a very high performance. And like cities in Belgium and Netherlands are doing a lot to support. We have Circular Flanders. I also like looking to, for example, initiatives of Amsterdam, which have like the Circular project, where like collecting templates for administration in the government to actually, because they cannot all study circular economy. So how you actually, what do you do yourself? And I'm looking at, Netherlands and Belgium.
Okay. Do anyone take the challenge?
We are at least looking at the graphs where Netherlands and maybe even Belgium is at the top and Norway is at the bottom. That's a good start. And I think there is quite a big awareness that the knowledge and progress on these things is much more advanced in the Netherlands, at least than in Norway. And then I guess you guys we guys in Oslo are particularly interested in what's happening in those cities.
Lina?
Yes, and we're both the Netherlands and Belgium actually has quite a few good cases that we're trying to pick up on in Oslo, on very many topics actually. We also have looking into a cooperation on between the Port of Oslo and the Port of Rotterdam to make it greener. So what we're doing in Oslo is actually going sector by sector to see how can we reduce the emissions, who are the natural partners, where can we be the front runners, and where can we find other front runners that we can learn from.
Very good.
Yeah, and Oslo should use the, I mean, your innovative sit in the C40 network, you have the Euro cities and everywhere. So the city is, I think Oslo is in practical terms part of the EU. And should use all those systems that are there. And then Norway should become part of the EU. That would also help and make it much easier. Also the regulatory frameworks, because now we lag behind, because it's got to be decided in the EU, and then we use 5-7 years to get it here. So that's one part. But I think also that we also have a lot of good examples. So we should be proud of those, and also and be. So I think that like also they can be part of that network with confidence and self-confidence. But we need to. I think for everyone it's a learning experience. So but in Norway it's from going from these good examples to get a much broader framework. So it's like Rasmus said. The numbers, they talk for themselves. So where we are in the bottom, we have to get up.
I know that we could talk for hours and maybe days, weeks, months, I don't know. We don't have the time. But Christina, if you should sum up in a couple of sentences.
Yes. Thank you. Well, and we have to start talking. We have to do, and we do. I think we agree that we have to make a material care culture. We have to take care of what we're doing. We have to look out and we have to tell. And we have to change. And what we show also at the pavilion, which is partly come through to SirkTRE, the start of this pavilion was what can you make of short pieces, which are the rest, the surplus of a production. So please have a look at the installation and the pavilions. Think for yourself, rethink, that's the most important part now, and then go home and act.
Thank you, all of you, for being here. I hope you will have a joyful evening, and the opening is quite soon at the City Hall, so please rush on. Thank you.